Welcome this evening, and I appreciate your attendance. Tonight we'll have the presentation of colors by the Owen High School ROTC, and they are instructed by McConney, the U.S. Army retired.
At the half step for Mark. Mark. Go. Left. Face. Freezing. Go.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Forward. Go. Right. Face. At the half step forward. Mark.
I'd ask that you remain standing for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. You may be seated. This time I would seek approval of our agenda. Could I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Could I get a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. It's time for the superintendent. I like it because you guys all migrated over to one side. You're trained so well.
It's hard to believe, but another school year is almost here. It's just around the corner. And Monday, August 27th, will be the first day back for students. Look at those smiling faces when I said that. And smiling faces from parents, too. In Buncombe County, and I would encourage all of our stakeholders to view the websites of the individual schools, to check dates and times for Meet the Teacher events, as well as to access important information and documents that you'll be asked to help the schools by filling out. I'm also very proud this year to announce to the public and to our board that all 6 of our school districts, beginning this fall, will have at least one kindergarten class of dual language. You know, that's been a vision we've had for a number of years, and it will happen. And in 2 of our districts, North Buncombe and Inca, these classes will be the first opportunity for dual language for students. So we're just so excited for that as global education has been such a priority for this school district. We'll also be one of the very few systems in the state to offer an option for dual language sequence from K through 8th grade. So ultimately, all 6 districts will have those opportunities over time. Also want to recognize new teachers. Ms. Lopez and her staff are going to be working overtime quite a bit next week. Our new staff will be attending beginning teacher orientation on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week. And we're expecting about 80 new teachers, but we are still in the process of hiring. We need to hire and stop. We need to get the school doors open and everybody hired. Monday, August 20th, we will have all new certified staff. There'll be a new employees training, and we'll have approximately 200 new staff members. They'll be attending district meetings and trainings. And the board is invited to have lunch with new teachers that day. And Cynthia, I think that's here in Nesbitt Discovery. Is that correct? So we'll give you some more information and hope that you can make that. That's always fun. School safety remains such an important focus for all of our Buncombe County schools as orientation sessions begin on August 22nd across the district. And this year we will be initiating a professional development for all school building staff that will use the national NIMS model. Again, if you recall, we're one of the first systems really in the entire region to require administrators to be certified through the National Incident Management System. And that will enhance protocol and practice. And likewise, through the state, we have applied and will receive an increased allocation of $115,000 for additional school resource officers. So we're not quite sure the placement of that, although we're very excited because I think that will represent some expansion, especially for our elementary schools. And I'm sure our elementary school communities, our staffs, our principals will be very excited. So thank you to the state for the Safe Schools grants that have been sent out. And they're also making new funding available in the form of grants for mental and behavioral health support. And Mr. Thompson and his team, they're working with community partners to apply as well for these opportunities. And David and his staff, again, are one of the front runners in the entire state. He's a hot commodity when we're talking about behavioral health at various government locations across the state. So we really want to thank him for his leadership and excited about the opportunities with new staffing there. School campus security is also being enhanced. Mr. Pace is coordinating an emphasis on door entrances. That's beginning at the middle school level, and then it'll be moving to high schools. And on Tuesday of this week, Mr. Huff presided over the first School Security Steering Committee. If you recall, that was a recommendation that came to this board from our capital outlay. And I think the board's wisdom was, well, let's partner with Asheville City Schools and let's look at this as a potential presentation then, as a joint effort that would go back to the Capital School Commission. So that is the intent. To professionally survey all of our campuses, both systems, and then looking to get recommendations for the current best practices in security. So, Mr. Huff, I want to just give you a few minutes if you want to just sort of give the board an update and summary, and I really appreciate your leadership with this. This is very exciting.
Madam Chair, members of the board, as Dr. Baldwin mentioned, the School Security Steering Committee will be going to the Capital Commission sometime in September. That's when we believe they'll form and have their first meeting for the purpose of optimizing our security posture on our campuses. Each year during the capital outlay process, we're always in the dilemma of trying to award our capital dollars, for which we get 4 times those requests from our schools. I will tell you that this past year was even more difficult as those tragedies that unfolded at Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida and eventually Santa Fe High School, those things just kind of resonated in our minds, certainly our students, our parents, our educators, and then in our communities, our state, and even throughout the nation, we saw that, especially with student movements. I will tell you, although we are able to meet some of our most pressing security needs with our current capital allotment, we realize that it's absolutely impossible to meet all those needs. And I will tell you, we have expertise in facilities, maintenance, and technology, but we realize we are not the experts in the field of security. To do the very best for our schools, we reached the conclusion that we must seek those professionals to research and study all our schools for truly what they need to be as secure as they possibly can be. The security study will explore the national best practices, as Dr. Baldwin mentioned, and evaluate each one of our schools for those individual needs. And that's important because if you know, our buildings range anywhere from the 1920s to present day, with community high school coming online. And it's obvious that some of our schools will have more needs than others. Now, as we find that optimal level of security, we'll be able to be equitable across the board with this study. I think it's important to note that Article 39, which was partly created by our good friend and the late Congressman Martin Nesbitt, he believed that improving our facilities to be the safest and most conducive places of learning was important, and that's how that came along. I'm really excited. Had a great turnout from Asheville City, about 8 members, so they are taking it as serious as we are. And I will tell you, they agreed with us that by partnering together, we feel like we can move swiftly through the process. And they also agreed that we will make this both our #1 priority going to the commission. As that time approaches, I'll just let you know that the steering committee will be working to write a very good request for qualifications. Some of that will actually have in it certain certifications that we're looking for and a certain package of deliverables that we'll expect to get from them. with that RFQ. Many thanks to Mr. Queen and Ms. McMahon for being on that committee.
Thank you, Mr. Huff. I also want to applaud the efforts of our Human Resource Department, Ms. Lopez, and our Communications Department, and I'm going to throw a shout out to WLOS. We had a highly successful job fair earlier this week. We had over 120 prospective employees that turned out. I know several of the board members had an opportunity to stop in. I don't think any of them actually applied for jobs, though, did they, Ms. Lopez? There we go. We always need bus drivers. And I would encourage our public to continue to monitor the district website for posted employment opportunities. And again, I'll reiterate, school bus drivers are always in demand in all of our schools. Also want to recognize Mr. Frisbee, Mr. Pace, our instructional technology team. I want to recognize them for facilitating a very successful, I think this is the 4th annual STEAM conference at AB Tech. I had an opportunity to sit in on some sessions, and they were absolutely fantastic. I don't know how many attendees we had. I saw badges from all over the state that were sitting in some of those sessions, and I know we had I think I counted 122 presenters. But AB Tech was very kind to allow us to use the brand new Allied Health building, and it was just an excellent conference. So Robert and Barry, thank you for your leadership with that, and that instructional technology team, because many of them presented. August is a busy month for conferences and trainings, and on the 14th, Buncombe County Schools will be the official host of a statewide Global Education Summit. We're really excited about that. Sherry Boone, I don't know if Sherry's here, her and her team have been putting a lot of work in along with curriculum department. I know they've been involved as well. We'll be coordinating with Worldview out of Chapel Hill. It is one of the primary global ed organizations, support organizations for schools across, actually across the Southeast. And we're also going to be partnering with LEAF. That's a support organization for community arts, and they have just been an absolutely wonderful partner. Lisa, you've actually partnered with them with summer feeding, and so we're bringing the arts in along with global education. Very exciting. Anticipate around 450 participants, and this is from all over the state. Thanks to North Buncombe High School, because that will be the site that will be hosting this summit. And you might be interested in knowing that our school district and the LEAF organization became one of only 7 systems in the entire nation that was invited to join the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts as a partner in education. So they're going to be represented at this summit as well. So that's a huge accomplishment. So just a lot of good things, and gosh, let's don't forget the Tools for Schools that's going to be happening next Wednesday. Ingalls, WLOS, huge, and I know I'm going to forget some sponsors. Eblin certainly is at the core of that. That'll be at the Tunnel Road, Ingalls, and it'll start at 4:30 in the morning. 4:30 in the morning next Wednesday. So we'll see everyone at 4, maybe 4:45. We'll give everybody a little extra 15 minutes.
Favorite time of day.
That concludes my comments.
Good news.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Baldwin, Madam Chair, members of the board. So tonight we have a very interesting story to bring you all. This summer, the Communications Department found out that an Avery's Creek Elementary student was just on a regular little vacation with his family when something extraordinary happened. Miss Denise Montgomery could come forward, and Alexander as well, and they're going to tell you a little bit more about what happened.
Good evening, Dr. Baldwin, Madam Chair, and members of the board, and members of the audience. It's good to see you all this evening, and I'm very excited about school starting back and getting to have all my students back. I love Facebook sometimes, and for this reason, I love Facebook because one of my teachers shared a story about this extraordinary young man, and I thought about, well, should I share the story? But I would like for him to share the story because he and his lovely family were out on what they thought was an afternoon at Patty's Creek. And they thought, they were out, for a family outing. And so I'm going to turn it over to Alex because, we are a Leader in Me school, and Alex is a leader. And so when I asked him if he would like to share the story, he resoundingly said, yes, I would like to share my story. So I'm going to turn it over to Alex and let him share his story.
When we were going to Patty's Creek, we couldn't find our friends for like 2 hours. And then so we just decided to go on the beach and play for a couple hours and then leave home. And then when we came a little farther, I heard some people saying that there's a girl laying in the water. Me and my mom thought it was a doll. But I went to double check if she's a real live person, and she was. And then a couple minutes, like 5 or 4, and then our friends came to pick us up on the boat.
So Alex and his family were at Patty's Creek, and so what he's sharing is that they thought there was a baby doll in the water, and he looked. There were hundreds of people at the beach, hundreds, his father shared. It was very crowded, and people thought, there was a baby doll. He looked over, thought there was a baby doll in the water, and so he ran over to check it out, and this was not a baby doll. It was actually a live child in the water face down. He reached in and touched it, and it was actually a live child. Alex picked up the baby, an 18-month-old child. He picked up the child and took it to his father, and at the time the child was not breathing. And his father took this 18-month-old and turned the child over and started, patting the child on the back, and his father actually got this child breathing again. So these two actually, in my opinion, saved this child's life. And they started yelling for help and got the lifeguard. And from there, today, this child is alive thanks to these two. So I think they deserve a round of applause. And Alex, on behalf of the Buncombe County School Board, they have a special gift for you. So if you'd like to open it up and see what's inside, because I know they want you to take out what's in here. You want to lay it up here?
Thank you.
Come forward. And Dr. Baldwin.
Oh, we gotta get mom and dad.
Oh, roundabout pictures?
Sure.
Go ahead. They were asking.
Madam Chair, can I just say something? I wanted to say, I actually saw the Facebook story when Ms. Montgomery had it, and the very first thing I thought was, wow, a leader, because, Avery's Creek, Leader in Me School, here's a perfect example. But not just a leader, but reading the story, what really stuck out to me was a compassionate child. The curiosity of little boys is something that you just automatically expect them to go and check things out. But the compassion of, just leaping forward and doing, rescuing that child immediately, that's pretty special. And that just really shows a true heart. And I want to congratulate the parents for instilling those values in your child. And I'm very excited to see the great things that he's going to do, because compassionate leader, those are very rare. And I'm very excited to see his future. So thank you.
So Alex, when you go to school and your teacher says, tell us what you did last summer, man alive, do you have a story to tell. Thank you so much. It is now time for our curriculum feature.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Dr. Baldwin, members of the board. How appropriate for our next curriculum feature to tie in Leader in Me, because our head cheerleader of Leader in Me is the director of our Buncombe County Schools Foundation. I have the privilege to collaborate regularly with the foundation, and we're going to share some updates with you this evening. Thank you, Alex, and congratulations.
Thank you, everybody, for inviting us here. Again, pleasure to see you all. And you guys did a very great job. A lot of effort, and we put a lot of effort and tolerance educating our kids. I'm really thankful for you all. God bless you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. So Lisa Atkins, the director of our foundation, is going to share with you a little bit of wrap-up from last year and a little bit of excitement for this year.
Yeah. Oh, hey. Welcome. Thank you so much, this amazing, huge crowd. And thank you to the school board, Dr. Baldwin, Suzanne.
It is an amazing crowd. What are you talking about?
I feel like I paid all my friends to be here. So you're in luck. Dr. Baldwin, when he invited me to do this, did tell me that I had 30 to 45 minutes to speak. And thankfully for you, Suzanne happened to drop by my office and inform me I had 10. So
shame on you.
13. So quickly, though, I did want to thank you for letting me come and speak. And I did want to follow up a little bit on what I spoke about when I met with you guys back in May. So just to recap, we are the Buncombe County Schools Foundation. And as you know, our mission is to fund education in Buncombe County by partnering with local businesses, foundations, individuals, anyone who has a love of education and wants to help support it. That's our job. Specifically, though, we break that down by giving money to teachers with great ideas. And we have a lot of amazing teachers with really amazing ideas. We also provide scholarships for graduating seniors, and we support leadership and character development programs in our schools, especially the Leader in Me. But more importantly, we are a K-12 foundation that supports all of our students, all of our schools through our grants and our scholarships. In practice, specific to last year, the 2017-2018 school year, we ended up giving over $340,000 in scholarships for graduating seniors. This is $100,000 more than we gave even the year before. And this is money we don't seek, we don't go after it, nothing. The community is so invested in our students. We field calls once a week at least for people wanting to come and do scholarships for our seniors. We also did over $170,000 this year just in classroom and school grants. So total, every year we end up giving about $500,000 to Buncombe County schools through our students, through our teachers, and through our schools in the school district. To break that down even more, the grants broke down like this. We gave about $21,000 in classroom grants for our innovation grants. Those are the grants that are about $1,500, really focus on curriculum, on collaboration, and it's everything from therapy tools to field trips to books. AIG projects, garden projects, STEM, anything that a classroom needs that is above and beyond the typical funding. If we have the money to do it and it fits our guidelines, that's the money that we give. We were really lucky this year in that Duke Energy gave us some extra money for science and math grants, and every single dollar of that was spent in the classroom. Then we spent about $25,000 on the larger grants, things like the Rolling to Feed Bus, which I think you're going to hear about more later in this semester at another board meeting. This was an exciting project to work on, where we got to help retrofit a bus and get it wrapped. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It looks pretty cool. It's out on the street. We gave money to the Bookmobile for a generator, right? Yeah. And then homebound student support and school safety equipment. If there's, God forbid, ever an emergency, the radios that will be used to communicate amongst the schools and the staff was donated through the Buncombe County Schools Foundation. In addition to that, we gave over $100,000 through our endowed funds, and that's the Pattison Fund, the Conrad Fund for North Buncombe, Hog Creek Elementary School, and a couple of other endowed funds that we have. So all of that went to Buncombe County Schools just this past year. And we do that through our corporate sponsors. I can't say thank you to these donors enough. When you have Duke Energy and TD Bank, Ingalls, Pepsi, Home Trust Bank, Care Partners Foundation, who I ask for money year after year, they never say no. It's incredible, and we are so fortunate to live in a community where, again, the corporate sponsors believe so strongly in public education in Buncombe County. And then in addition to that, and I know I've talked about this before, we have our endowed funds. We are one of the largest public education foundations in the state of North Carolina because of the strength of our endowed funds. That's just something that the majority of other school districts in our state don't have. They've done really well. It's one of those quiet, unseen, behind the scenes, super boring meetings that we have. But our investment committee takes this so seriously, and the care and feeding of our endowed funds has really paid off. And then lastly, we have our BCS Cares annual campaign. I can't say thank you enough, and I know it seems normal that you guys have a major employee giving campaign, and it seems normal that everybody should give payroll deduction money to their foundation. That's not typical, and we are really lucky to have that. The fact that such an emphasis is made, and the fact that you care so much about supporting your foundation through this employee giving campaign. It's not the largest amount of money that we get every year, but to us it's the most important, because so many times we get money from our teachers and handwritten notes, and that means the world. So Suzanne, I know that's a huge something big for you, and you're in charge of that, and it's very meaningful to us, and we really do appreciate that. So we're looking forward to that again in September. But everything we do in terms of the giving and in terms of the getting of the money that we have is all under the umbrella of what we consider our larger purpose, and that is to help keep our good teachers in Buncombe County, help make our classrooms better, and understanding the fact that we're in a competitive school environment now, and we want to do what we can to keep our schools competitive. Always we're looking at how we can make a positive impact. Always we're looking at how we can be part of the larger discussion regarding education in Buncombe County. We just met with Dr. Baldwin about 3 weeks ago to talk about whether or not the leadership programs, if that's the direction we should continue. Should we continue doing the Leader in Me? Should we still focus on that, or is that another focus that Buncombe County has that maybe you really want us to fund? And the decision was made, yes, we should keep doing that. So in terms of the Leader in Me, we're currently at 9 schools. That's a major, major initiative for us. It's more than any other district in North Carolina. There's currently 5,000 students and teachers engaged in this initiative, and we've spent over $100,000 on that. So we will continue supporting this program, but we're also going to look at how we can expand that into the middle and high schools. It may not look like the Leader in Me. It may not even be associated with Franklin Covey, but those are the discussions we will be having as we go into the fall. So this year, 2018, 2019, scholarships will stay the same. That's part of our DNA. It's what we do. We expect to have over $300,000 in scholarships again this year that we'll be managing. They go out on our website in January. They're due in March. We're giving ourselves a little bit more lead time this year because we had so many. Grants, however, will have a little bit of a change. That's where we'll be looking at our classroom grants and whether or not we want to focus that more on professional development, whether or not we want to take that leadership focus and make that the focus of our grants and less on the little individual projects in the classroom. So those are discussions we'll be having. We're going to have to figure this out quickly because we like to have our grant opportunities out by October. So we'll keep you posted on that. And then lastly, I'm not going to get into any of the legislative stuff that I talked about before, except to talk about the big task force on education reform that's happening in the state of North Carolina. You were supposed to get a report from the state this October. That's been pushed out to October 2019. I say that because it's a big deal. You're talking about $8 billion, thousands of students, hundreds of school districts, a lot of money that they're looking at, and that report, when it comes out, I'll be very curious to see what it says. So I just wanted to keep that on the back burner, but know that it's out there. And so that's it. We know that we have this one chance to make a difference in our kids' lives. And we know that the work that you do is so incredibly important. And we are honored that you let us be a part of that and that you let us help do the work that you do. So thank you. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Board members, you have any questions? No, thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome.
Do we have public comments?
Madam Chair, we have no public comment signups tonight.
Thank you. Now the action agenda, we're moving on to the 2017-2018 budget amendment number 2 with Ms. Frisbee. Are there questions for Ms. Frisbee?
I do have one question, Madam Chair.
Uh-huh.
And Ms. Frisbee, I don't know if this is a question for you or for Mr. Wyatt, but I see that in this budget revision, the largest deduct to make all of this work is in maintenance services. And obviously, we need to take care of our buildings and facilities, and just wondering what's not going to happen because we're taking $74,000 out of maintenance services.
Well, this is for last year. This is 2017-18.
This
This is just shoring up things that, like our charter school payment came in a little bit higher than what we thought. So this is for last year. This is the
Okay.
last budget amendment.
And so, all righty. Thank you for clarifying that. I'm sorry I missed it.
It's
and
okay.
so the $74,000 was maintenance funds that we didn't need then for whatever reason last year, I guess.
Yeah. The maintenance budget always brings money to the table, so unfortunately, sometimes we have to tap in to make it take care of offsetting items. So
were there things that didn't get done because we had to do this?
Always ready to do.
Okay.
But no.
Well, there aren't any holes in any roofs that we're having to deal with. Is that correct? As of this morning?
So what we do, when we bring the last budget amendment to the board on June the 30th, or close to June 30th, we make every effort to make, all the estimates and things like that. And so what we do is when we shored up our charter school payment, it took a little bit more money than we had left in that line item. So that's the reason that we're just,
right. And
otherwise
I
it would.
understood that we were having to pay more for charter schools than we expected, and I'm just
Yes.
going to say that again, more for charter schools
Yes.
than we expected, and therefore we're having to take more out of our maintenance budget
Right.
than we expected, and therefore there are things that presumably didn't get done. And you're saying they're not, but I'm reading some body language up there that tells me that there were things that maybe didn't get done because we had to pay more money to the charter schools. So I'm getting a little different information from the two people that I'm asking here, so I don't know if, Mr. White, you would like to come down to the microphone and if you have anything to add?
I really don't have anything to add. It's
Okay.
just, there's always plenty to do. There will never be enough money to do everything that's to be done. So we have to work together.
So just for the recording's sake, what you just said was there'll never be enough money to handle all of our maintenance needs, but we have to do what we have to do to pay our bills. Thank you.
And to keep our schools safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that right, Mr. Wyatt?
That's correct.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
I just want to make sure he's paying attention. Ms. Swanger, it's our strategic, thank you, Ms.
You're
Frisbee.
welcome. Do we need to vote on that?
I guess we need to vote on that since we did that. All those in favor, say, no. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Was that a so move? And I can have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you. That's a no for $74,000. Okay, strategic plan for 2018 through 2021, Ms. Swanger.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have completed the strategic plan that we shared with you in June. We took your recommendations, your edits, and you have the copy as emailed earlier in this week. We're excited about the process. We think it's been very inclusive. We've gotten a lot of feedback. And last week at our principals in service for 2 days, the second afternoon was spent in conversation and reflection about what your strategic plan looks like at the school level. As you know, all of our schools are doing their new 2-year school improvement plans. So it's important for them to know the vision of the district and how to take that vision, looking at their school priorities, their data, and then creating their school improvement plans, which will come to you later this fall. I'll be happy to answer any questions. We feel like that the big guiding principles that we heard from you in that SWOT analysis that we did back in February, academic excellence is why we're here. That's what we do. We have to have safety in all of our workplaces, our classrooms, and that's important for our support systems. And we can't do that without leaders, so we had a strand for our current leaders, our aspiring leaders, and our student leaders. So all schools will know how to contribute to that. And then how do we better engage families and communities? So those are the big umbrellas. And then with each of those goals, we have established action items and our intended outcomes. Our next steps, if approved this evening, will be for those key individuals to look at those specific components to them and identify the strategies to meet those goals and those outcomes. And our directors and lead central office and Dr. Baldwin's leadership team will be doing that. And then we will be more intentional about bringing that information to you more regularly. We've had an accountability 2 times a year that once we have semester data and we have each of those indicators, we will tell you how we're doing. Are we meeting it? Are we on track? Have we got to it yet, or have we completed it? So it will be a real systemized, color-coded way for accountability with backup documents. So we're actually very excited about it.
I appreciate all the hard work that it has gone into this. I've participated in some of it, and it sure does stretch the brain.
But it's much simpler than it was in past years.
Yes.
And we didn't want it to be that. So another important next step will be the work that Ben has a 1-pager ready to go. He just wants to finalize the language, and we want to make sure that what we tell the public, what we tell our stakeholders, what we share with our teachers, very easily understood and comprehensible.
Okay, are there questions?
I just wanted to say that easily understood and comprehensible, yay. That was something that I really felt like we emphasized from the beginning of this process, that schools are hotbeds of jargon and abbreviations and things that the general public are not going to be able to relate to. And I really feel like you have pulled all of that out of here, and I can relate to it as a normal human being and why this matters and how it's going to happen, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for your guidance.
Other people? Yes.
And I don't know whether this question is for Dr. Baldwin or Ms. Swanger, or maybe both, but my concern with these types of things, I know we've done this in the past in a different format. My concern is always, I prefer us to incorporate things like this into what we are doing, where maybe we're tweaking some things as opposed to adding on, because these things, when we leave here and vote on these things, these move out of us as board members' hands and fall to the school level for implementation and to be done. And I just want to make sure that we've considered that and that we're not putting something on people's plates that's going to be too much. And I know we've talked about it before, but can you kind of discuss some of how that's been fleshed out and where the thoughts are on that?
We really had those important discussions as we were looking at the measurement tools. And one example was, do we have a way of collecting from the school level all of what volunteers do in the community engagement? Well, no, we know volunteer hours, but that if we did it like we had once talked about, then our schools would have had a lot of work to do to share that number with us, to share that number with you. And it didn't seem productive. It didn't seem necessary. So we really looked at each of those action items to make sure what's the important way to measure, how do we know if we're meeting that outcome, and who does it, and how much work is it? Because, again, these folks are very, very tapped out. Our school folks are very, very tapped out. I want our school staff members to concentrate on being successful with their school improvement plan. I want the district to be successful in moving these initiatives forward. And if you notice, there's no surprises in this document. We haven't arrived yet at completing the Global Ready district level. We haven't arrived at having Leader in Me or leadership opportunities in every single district. So we still have work to do. So those are not new initiatives, and I'm very happy that you all saw fit for those initiatives to continue. I think that's where school districts get into trouble, when you do something for 3 years and then you stop and then you do something else for 3 years. What you've told us in your comments, you've told us what's important to you. You've heard what we think is important, and I do think this document guides that work and holds us accountable. Directors are always going to do their individual goals for their departments. We've been doing goals setting every year, so there shouldn't be additional work. It should just be very framed and very specific.
We've had two years of, I think, very successful administrative retreats to start our school years, and in both years, the message that came from us to principals was very simple. It was, let's stay close to back to basics. Stay with what got us to the point of being recognized as one of the top school systems in the state, and a return back to focus in on that classroom and what's taking place in there. And I think Ms. Swanger's exactly right. We have some incredible initiatives, and we took time tonight to recognize the global ed, the resiliency training that's going on, the compassionate schools, the Leader in Me. There's some incredible programs, but they support and enhance the core, and the core is what happens in that classroom. And I think the beauty of this strategic plan is, if you really look through it, it's right back to what Ms. McMahon said. It's just taking it and simplifying it so it's more basic, but it doesn't veer away from the core of what our mission is for Buncombe County Schools. So I appreciate that. I think you're exactly right. I think we're in a time where we have to be very careful not pick up the next new thing coming along the corner, because they are all out there. We need to stay with and continue to enhance and expand where we can, because we're a large system, the quality programs that we have in place. And a lot of work's taking place with this strategic plan, but there's not a lot of new. In fact, I don't know what's really new. It parallels a lot that was done the previous 5 years ago when our plan was put in place.
Thank you both.
I've been in schools this week, and principals have appreciated the simplicity of the document, and they feel pretty empowered to take that with their school improvement teams to align their work. So that is a compliment to you all and what you brought forward to us in the planning sessions.
And I just want to say, too, that it is important to have vision and strategy, and to take the time to look at what we're doing, learn what we can from the advanced ed process that we've just been through, fold that into, we were talking earlier about the importance of leadership and the strong leadership that we have in Buncombe County Schools, and that unlike in some other areas, we do have strong leadership, and we're not just being reactive to whatever is coming along. And so the fact that this lays out what our vision is and how we want to accomplish it and builds on the good things that we're doing, but yet we're not just resting on our laurels, and we are really looking at ourselves and how can we be doing things differently. And I think taking the time to have that vision and to state where we want to be heading and where our ship is going is very important. And I appreciate that it has taken a lot of time to do this, but we do need to have a strategic plan. We do need to have a strategic vision so that we know where we're headed, and we're not just, going along doing the same old because we always have. So thank you.
Ms. Pate?
I do want to reiterate what they said. Thank you so much for all the hard work all of you put into this. And thank you very much for listening to our input, because I could see some of the comments that we had made incorporated into this document. So thank you very much. I do have one clarification question. Sure. On page 6, action item 2B, student services, it talks about all middle and high schools will be trained in Compassionate Schools framework. Is there a reason that the elementary schools weren't put into this?
They've all completed the initial training, so we're moving into the secondary.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board?
I have one other question for action 2 with the facilities. And there's one of our goals, of course, is school facilities are prepared for the K-3 class size reduction state mandate. That's just coming right around the bend. So with our color coordination, where are we? What shade are we in with that mandate?
Well, Mr. Fearley and Mr. White and Mr. Huff and Mr. Pace and I have visited those schools several times this past school year, looking at future spaces. We had a little bit of reprieve from the General Assembly, but we continued on with some of the projects of getting those classroom spaces, especially at Fairview and at Estes. We moved a modular out. We've done some pre-construction, so we're monitoring it very carefully. And then, of course, we'll look at our numbers after the first school month and see where we are.
Okay, but we have not just taken that reprieve and sat back and done nothing. We've just continued to plan as
Correct.
if and looking into the future for that. Thank you.
Thank you, board. Other questions? All right, hearing none, I would accept a motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the strategic plan as written.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for the strategic plan.
Thank you.
I have had this is a point of personal privilege. I have had the opportunity during the summer to observe closely some new principals and their challenges at opening a school. while they come to us with experience, this is their first time to be the pitcher. And it has been very interesting to me how a phone call gets somebody appropriate from the county office to come out and help them create a schedule, or come out and help them determine what a safe place is in their school. And it's almost immediate response. And we don't have one new principal. I'm sure that I ran into David Thompson at one of the schools before the seat was warm when that new principal had sat down, and I thought, my goodness, here comes David Thompson. And so I want to say to you, as a staff and a staff that we employ, thank you. Thank you for what you do, for your immediate response, and the care that you're giving to the success of those new principals, as well as those new teachers and their students. Thank you very much.
We have a wonderful staff. Let's give them a round of applause.
Yes. All right, now it's time for the consent agenda. On the consent agenda is the minutes for June 7th, special called open session, June 7th, regular meeting open session, June 28th, special call meeting open session, the personnel report with the addendum, A.C. Reynolds High School, use of capital outlay athletic allotment, community high school, alternative accountability model participation, Buncombe County Schools proposed federal programs for 1819, resolution declaring surplus a portion of Inca, intermediate school property, and subleasing to Inca Candler Fire Department and Rescue Department, records and retention disposal, advisory council members for 1819, and policies for second reading. Policy 3450, which is class rankings, and I would entertain a motion to approve this list of items, including the personnel addendum.
So moved.
Thank you. Could I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? On your agenda, you'll find the information items and policies for first reading. Our next meeting will be September the 6th. It's hard to believe, and it will be right here in this minitorium. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Hello?
Motion fails due to lack of.
So moved.
I mean, I like you guys a whole lot, but could I get a motion to adjourn?
Donna moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. It's time to go home. Exactly.
Yeah, I did. I think so. Yeah.